So performing music especially became a really important part for me of surviving my grief and starting to transform my grief, because it gave me the opportunity to be seen and heard over and over and over. And I think sometimes, even when maybe a less traumatic loss happens, like you're in like a fender bender and no one's really hurt, but like for 3 days you're like, did I tell you I was in a car accident? Like you're just sort of like, it's in your mind and you're getting used to the story, and you're telling the story over and over, and you're kind of shaping it and figuring out what it is. And so with these really big losses that I couldn't make sense of. I couldn't make sense of my first son's death. I couldn't make sense that my second son died. It made no sense. And so to be able to like tell the story through my music was a way that I was like making sense of it, and that there was someone there, there was an audience there receiving it. And so it just really helped me, I think, process, because I had the opportunity to keep talking about it, and it kept me moving. I mean, in some ways, like it kept me away from home. It kept me away from my family. There was parts of that coping that I don't want to like paint as like positive or negative, but it was like there was some escape in it too, which can be also really important. Sometimes you need an escape while the dust settles. So there was some of that too. Like I got a lot out of making music for all of these reasons. It gave me a way to connect. It gave me a way to feel seen. It kept me busy. And it was a lot of my processing, and taking really painful things and turning them into something that felt meaningful. It was also a way to find some meaning in these experiences that felt so I felt so helpless with. And another beautiful aspect of sharing my stories in that way was people emailing me, people coming up to me after shows and telling me about their losses, which was moving, because then I'm like, okay, me and you, we've both had this experience. But it became something that I felt increasingly grateful for, realizing that it's actually, I think, very generous when we share our stories. Even though it can be really hard, we wait for an invitation to do it, or there's not a lot of spaces where we feel like it's safe to share our stories of grief. But when we do, I think it's really, I'm really touched by it. And so it still happens if someone hears me on the radio and they send me an email and tell me about their child or their partner or their dog, the relationship that meant so much to them and that ended. And I feel really touched to receive those stories. And for a while when I was touring, I would start to dedicate, one of the songs in particular every night to someone who had written to me. And it just made me feel part of something bigger. And I think a piece about grief that I think about a lot is that clearly it's so universal. Everyone experiences it and there's no way to escape it, but it's so solitary and it can feel so isolating and it can feel like exile and you can feel so alone with it. And I think that's because of like the specificity of our losses. Like I, Christa, lost my son Ford. No one else can know exactly what that specific loss is. But there's other bereaved parents, there's other people who can connect with what it is to have that kind of broken heart. And so when I receive other people's stories, it's I think giving all of us a way to feel like we're not exiled on an island, and that we can see each other in some way.